The best-selling manga in the world. What is it? Yeah, I know a couple of names enter your mind, and if you're someone who's been around the anime sphere for a while, I'm sure your guesses are quite on the mark. There are just some titles that are marketing monsters or have spent generation after generation capturing the hearts of anime fans, or something that came out of nowhere and took the world by storm. For today's list, we're diving through 30 of the top-selling manga titles based on cumulative numbers, including spin-offs and the like. So let's get started.
出航だ
Starting things out at number 30 is Tokyo Revengers.
ずっと愛してる君にしかあれは救えない引けねえんだよ引けねえ理由があるんだよ
Now, did that one surprise you? Tokyo Revengers as a manga ran from 2017 to 2022, and in those 5 years, it sold approximately 80 million copies. That's amazing for a relatively short run, and it's just a testament to how big it was at one point. People went crazy for the time travel delinquent story, resulting in those numbers and a large number of collabs still going on to this day. Sure, Tokyo Revengers' reputation took a hit around when things were winding down for the ending, but there's no denying how big of an impact it made in the manga industry. It may no longer look like the titan it was when Leiden Films first brought it to the anime world 3 years ago, but it sure left a legacy for manga fans to look back to. Fun fact, there's a reason Wakui's stories are so rooted in realism. He's lived the lifestyle portrayed in Tokyo Revengers himself. When he was younger, Wakui was a self-proclaimed delinquent who was expelled from school and was reportedly a member of a biker gang. At number 29, we have Sangokushi. Clocking in at 80 million total copies sold, with an average of 1 million copies sold per volume, this historical manga made a mark in its time. Now, it's a series from the 70s, so I don't have a first-hand account of what it was like back then, but I can assume that people from Japan were enthralled with this take on the Chinese literary classic Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That's definitely a treasure trove of stories that anime and manga can take inspiration from. Its popularity helped leverage it into an anime adaptation in the early 90s. With it having a 4-year gap between the ending of the manga and the start of the anime, it shows how different things were before. That just doesn't happen anymore, with anime often being used to help boost and promote currently ongoing series. At 28 is Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist needs a little introduction if you're someone who's got into anime in the past decade or so. Still revered as one of the eternal classics in the world of anime and manga, it's no surprise that Full Metal Alchemist had such great success in terms of its sales. Full Metal Alchemist took a bit of time to get to 80 million though, as its run took almost a decade as opposed to the 5 years it took Tokyo Revengers. This likely speaks to the difference in consumer behavior at the turn of the century. Full Metal Alchemist deserves all of its success either way. It's truly one of the most complete anime out there, having a way to appeal to all spectrum of viewers. You've got a good blend of action, a plot that doesn't overstay its welcome, and some really thought-provoking themes that appeal to those who prefer to view anime as higher art. Vagabond sits at 27. Vagabond is a historical manga that's a fictional retelling of Musashi Miyamoto's life. It's known to be one of the best seinen manga out there, and its popularity is a reflection of that. This manga has great art, awesome fight scenes, and excellent showcases of character growth. The latter is super important given how the series is something akin to a biography, allowing the readers to view the ever-changing world through the protagonist's lens. An unfortunate thing about the manga, however, is that it's been on hiatus for almost a decade now. It last showed up in publications in 2015, and there's no sign of a return anywhere. Still, with over 300 chapters under the belt, there's a lot for you to sink your teeth into. Hunter x Hunter comes in the 26th spot.
ハンターと呼ぶ
Speaking of hiatus, Hunter x Hunter has become rather notorious for that. It's a meme in the 2010s and it still holds true to this day. Despite that, the series has managed to garner roughly 84 million copies sold, give or take. With an astounding 2.3 million average per volume, it's one of the most prolific manga titles out there. With it being one of the best action-adventure anime of all time, that is to be expected. Ironically, it started around the same time as Vagabond, and the two series have similar numbers if you're looking at total copies in circulation. Who knows how much these masterpieces could have sold if they never went into prolonged hiatus.
カイトは生きてる。あんな奴には絶対に負けない。でもあれだけの怪我。私支えでございます。
And number 25 is Saze-san. Saze-san is a series that you'd likely know of if you did some deep diving into anime and manga history. While no one really talks about it, it's still one of the most notable series historically speaking. It had a nearly 30-year run starting from the 1940s as a manga, and its anime adaptation, believe it or not, is still ongoing today. Talk about a half-decade run for this slice of life that has become pretty much ingrained with Japanese everyday life. Saze-san sits at 86 million copies with 45 manga volumes. Jujutsu Kaisen finds itself in 24th place. 90 million copies. That's an estimate from a year ago as to how many copies of Jujutsu Kaisen are in circulation. You'd expect no less from the hottest new big thing in the world of shonen anime. It's quite easy to see what makes this manga popular. Amazing fights and cool characters are chief amongst those. Jujutsu Kaisen is currently riding a hype train on its way to the top. I don't expect the wave of momentum to subside anytime soon, with how much the internet has been buzzing with every weekly twist and development. I fully expect Jujutsu Kaisen to move up the list sooner rather than later, and with only 26 volumes released, the fewest of the featured mangas so far, it just shows how much people love and support the series. 23rd will be the first sports manga on the list, Captain Tsubasa. Captain Tsubasa, like Saze-san, is what I consider a legacy series. It hit in the 80s, it's one of the instrumental manga that helped pave the way for modern sports manga. I mean, you don't see anyone talking about Captain Tsubasa when things like Blue Lock exist, but I can't help but feel a certain kind of respect for these series that walked so our modern blockbusters could run. The original Captain Tsubasa ended right before the 90s, but the new series has continued its legacy, allowing it to ease itself into the modern era for die-hard and loyal fans who've grown up alongside the franchise. Putting it all together, we're looking at around 90 million total, right on par with Jujutsu Kaisen, however the per volume sales pale in comparison to the former. We follow that up with another sports manga, Touch. Here's another legacy title for you, Touch. This time is all about baseball. Despite not having as much name recall as something like Captain Tsubasa, likely due to the generic nature of its title, it managed to hit around 100 million copies sold in total. And with a comparatively short initial run of 5 years, that is simply astounding. One thing that may have helped it a lot is the smashing success of its anime adaptation, along with the live-action dramas and movies that helped keep it alive all the way till the mid-2000s. Touch may not be something that people discuss that much in terms of anime that made their mark in history, but the sales numbers don't lie and reflect glory days, a peak that's quite surprising considering how little we hear of the series these days. But the numbers don't lie. We're looking at an average of almost 4 million copies sold per volume. 21st would be good old My Hero Academia. Ever since its inception, it seems that anime fans all over the world have given My Hero Academia a warm reception. I remember when it was one of the most anticipated titles back in the mid-2010s. I've always theorized that My Hero Academia benefited from the real-life superhero boom in the early 2010s, but that kind of hype alone won't carry a series now, would it? The truth is, there's a lot to like about My Hero Academia, and while the series may have had its share of ups and downs, you can't deny that it sent its fans through a roller coaster of emotions throughout the years, enough for it to hit the 100 million total sales mark. We reached number 20 with Kingdom. Here's something underrated for you. Kingdom is one of the shows that's always been pretty good. It's got quite a lot of seasons and it has the numbers to back up its popularity. Still, it never seemed to be able to compete with the titans of the anime seasons. It could be the Warring States period not exactly being a historical period, the seinen tag and the more mature feel of everything, or the lack of super flashy powers or hype moments that categorize many of the shows that become extremely popular in the mainstream. Still, these numbers are no joke. We're looking at 100 million total copies sold. You don't get that many seasons just because, and it shows that while Kingdom may not be mainstream popular, it's got a powerful and loyal fan base. Up next for number 19 is the Gindaichi Case Files. The first mystery series coming up now. Gindaichi is one of the more enduring detective manga out there, possibly second only to one other super popular manga that will obviously feature sooner down the line. Gindaichi found its start in 1992 and is still ongoing, racking in awards. While we don't have concrete numbers for 2024, it did break the 100 million copies sold mark back in 2019, and it surely would have sold a lot more cumulatively as we speak. There are so many ways one can write a mystery, and the intriguing and creative nature of those, as well as how self-contained they generally are, may be some of the reasons why fans remain loyal to the series. Being easy to pick up and needing no prior catching up for a casual reader can work its magic. Let's set the stage for Hajime no Ippo as our number 18th entry. Ippo has pretty much become synonymous with boxing anime. Not just boxing, it's one of the most popular sports anime out there, period. The fact that people still speak highly of it to this day is more proof of how strong of a cultural footprint this 1989 series left behind. The cool thing about Ippo is that it's not just about an aspiring sportsman's journey, even though Ippo's career arc plays a large part in it. Even the other characters get their chance in the limelight, and I'll just say that some of the most epic fights and moments don't even involve the main character. Over 100 million copies are in circulation as reported in 2023. There's no letting up for Hajime no Ippo, and whether you choose to enjoy it in manga or anime form, you'll be in for one hell of a treat. Coming in hot at 17 is Fist of the North Star. Another legacy series that isn't getting talked about much these days. Fist of the North Star can be described as era-defining if you ask me. It looks a far cry from the refinement of modern anime, but it did set the tone for an entire era of hot-blooded, no-holds-barred action anime oozing with grit and toughness. People certainly gravitated to it and still point to it once in a while for the memes or moments of nostalgic longing for manly anime, and it definitely resonated with people back in the 80s. We're talking 100 million copies total as of last year, and an average of 3 million copies per volume. I'm pretty sure those numbers are both from fans back then and newer, younger fans trying to get a taste of this iconic series for a quick change of pace. The world of anime and manga looked like this once upon a time, and it's a treat to see how far it's come. Next up is Baki. Baki, as a franchise, is still going strong to this day. And I'm not just talking about the Netflix series, although I'm sure it played a part in the franchise enjoying quite a bit of a resurgence. The manga is still releasing volumes, and with the help of the anime picking up steam, I'm positive it's a series we'll continue seeing for quite some time. People just can't get enough of Baki, for it offers something so outlandish, so out of the world in terms of combat sports titles. It's something that isn't afraid to go off the rails, and so over the top despite being set in our world. With almost 200 volumes of main story story, sequels, and spin-offs being released across multiple decades, Baki doesn't have that much of an impressive per-volume number. Still is something that sold over 100 million copies as a manga franchise, and I'm expecting those numbers to keep going up. But first, go hit that like button and subscribe if you like this new format that I've been trying out. At number 15, we have Medium Granddaddy Astro Boy. Astro Boy is widely known as the forefather of anime and manga as we know it today. You don't need to be any sort of anime historian to know how much of an important figure it was in terms of kickstarting the whole thing. Known as a legendary title and one of the greatest, it's no surprise that it's here on the list. On one hand, you can point to the half a century of circulation for a possibly inflated cumulative sales number of around 100 million. On the other hand, you can say that its legacy has allowed it to survive the changing times and still get a trickling of new fans to this day. It's also got pretty impressive per volume numbers, 4 million per volume, the highest per volume numbers in all series we've covered so far, and just narrowly missing the top 5 per volume sales for everything on the list. In 14th place, here's Araki's masterpiece, JoJo. We finally break the 100 million mark with JoJo, a series that's accumulated at least 120 million total copies sold as of 2 years ago. It's one of the largest titles in terms of sheer volume count, having easily exceeded 100 volumes as of this day. And it's not hard to see why JoJo has become such a success, from the creative powers, how out of the box the characters are, and an epic saga spanning through in-universe generations. JoJo is just an amazing series that oozes both cool and meme energy. These numbers are deserved, I'd say. Bleach finally makes its appearance in the number 13 spot. The first of the Shonen Jump Big 3 to make its appearance on the list. Bleach's inclusion to this list is practically a no-brainer. It's one of the titles that helped define an entire era of anime starting to become an international phenomenon, and its sale numbers of 130 million as of a year ago is reflective of that. Pretty impressive considering how much of a polarizing thing its final arc was back when it was being published. Despite that, the volume sales had remained strong, and I'd reckon that, along with the successful gacha game and the cultural footprint it had created, helped encourage Pierrot to give the anime another shot. The 1000-year Blood War anime has been amazing, and it looks to keep the franchise going for the foreseeable future. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a spin-off or something like that in the coming years. Up next is not a mainstream shonen hit, we have Oishinbo instead. Bet you haven't heard of this title, have you? Don't worry, the same goes for me, and only after preparing for the list did I learn about the existence of this food manga. It's something that's been around since the 80s and is on an indefinite hiatus due to some real-life drama. What's it about? A series about a food journalist and critic. Now, that's hardly something too novel in 2024, but I reckon it was something back in the 80s. It also has over 135 million copies in circulation, despite being absent from publications for over a decade already. It could be a manga for you if you found yourself having enjoyed the many food-related treats the manga and light novel industries have given us over the past few years. Attack on Titan's advent is here, barely missing the top 10. Attack on Titan has come and gone, and it has, in my opinion, like the Shonen Big 3, defined its own generation of anime fans. Whereas the Jump Big 3 dominated the 2000s, the 2010s and the rise of streaming is Attack on Titan's reign. With a more Western-oriented aesthetic, a defiance of the usual shonen anime tropes that we've come to expect from the 2000 series, and doubling down on more mature themes and moral dilemmas, Attack on Titan broke the glass ceiling and became many non-fans' entry point into anime. For that, we have over 140 million copies sold and an entire army of converts, so to speak. It truly was emblematic of the 2010s, and the world came together to see its grand finale not too long ago. Crayon Shin-chan is our 10th best-selling manga.
Say hey, hey, Shin-chan, breaking the rules the best he can. Little bit rude, a little bit crude. He's the kid with an attitude. Shin-chan.
over 148 million copies sold in total, and it's pretty clear that a lot of people have become enthralled with Shin-chan's antics. Shin-chan's appeal as a series comes from its titular protagonist, specifically his mischievous actions and jokes, often bordering on inappropriate, but are still funny. The cool thing about the series is that underneath all the sexual innuendo and the main character's lack of tact, there are some wholesome moments, as the series is, at its core, stylized to be family friendly. We welcome Demon Slayer at number 9. All it took for Demon Slayer to become the anime phenomenon towards the start of the decade was an episode and influences going gaga over it. But before everything, it had been making quite a name for itself in the manga world, and the anime adaptation helped push it to new heights. It's still going real strong now as an anime after it broke records and reached milestones left and right, both as an anime and a manga. Its numbers sit at approximately 150 million copies sold, but with an astounding average of 6.5 million copies sold per volume. It simply reigns supreme when it comes to printing money, the highest on this list in fact. The only reason it's not higher on the list is because it's a 2016 manga and just doesn't come anywhere close in terms of mileage as the ones coming up. Speaking of mileage, here's Kochikame. Starting serialization in the 70s and ending in 2016, this comedy series about a middle-aged cop has a long history. In fact, it has 201 total volumes over its 40-year history, and that makes it the manga with one of the highest volume counts of all time. As of 2016, it's broken 156 million total copies sold, and it's pretty cool to know how it's maintained its popularity throughout almost half a century. It takes some serious hard work and determination to keep making manga for 40 years, and to think that the series never seem to miss a beat all throughout that just amazes me. In 7th place we have Slam Dunk. Probably one of the most popular sports series out there. Slam Dunk's inclusion here isn't exactly surprising, but to have it beat heavyweights and have per volume numbers that are close to Demon Slayer's is something that I didn't see coming. But you know what, the numbers don't lie, and we're looking at around 5.5 million copies per volume, totaling around 170 million copies over 31 volumes of manga. Slam Dunk definitely is the king of sports manga if we're going with sales numbers, and it's touched the hearts of fans from all over the world. It's really telling that the latest movie attracted not just older 30-year-old fans who've grown up with the series, but also some younger fans too.
Let's show your girl your best move. Doesn't matter if you win or lose as long as you give it your best.
The next Big Three member makes its appearance at number 6, and it's Naruto. If we're talking Western anime fans, Naruto is the anime of the 2000s. The one that everyone was so passionate about and pretty much the mainstream hit that everyone knew. There's not a lot that needs to be said about Naruto's popularity or any explanation as to why it's here. For a lot of millennials who were around at that time, Naruto is anime, and you can continue to see its influence in anime fan culture these days. Just go to any anime shop or convention and you can still see some traces of Naruto despite having ended almost a decade ago. As of 2020, we have over 250 million copies sold in the series' entirety, and those numbers don't even include Boruto. Doraemon is at number 5. Good old Doraemon. A reminder of childhood for many of us, a nostalgic title that brings us back to simpler times. The children's manga has become an integral part of Japanese pop culture, its titular character having reached the status of characters like Hello Kitty. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if some people don't even know that the blue robot cat came from a manga. The numbers for the manga just speak to its widespread appeal. Over 250 million copies sold like Naruto, although it admittedly had a longer time to accumulate those numbers, being a series that started way back in 1969. Still, it's the lone children's manga on the list, and that just shows how far ahead of the pack it is when it comes to its peers. Dragon Ball storms into 4th place. If we equate Attack on Titan to the 2010s and the Jump Big 3 to the 2000s, Dragon Ball is its equivalent for the 90s. People just can't get enough of Goku's adventures, and many have credited it to be the series responsible for Shonen Jump's pinnacle. Despite being 2 decades removed from its heyday, Dragon Ball fever continued to burn strong throughout the 2010s, and I'd argue the same holds true even right now. 260 million copies sold as of 2022, and I expect those numbers to keep growing as we get new material and more people get enthralled in the action-packed series. Thank you, Akira Toriyama, for such a wonderful story and universe that will continue to live on.
これでドラゴンボールの話はおしまい。
Our third placer is none other than Detective Conan. Detective Conan continues to enjoy widespread success all over the world. Yearly movies, a manga that continues to get published, and an anime that shows no sign of ending anytime soon. Detective Conan has entrenched itself as part of everyday Japanese culture, much like Doraemon did. I myself just find the series' longevity to be astounding. Even through over 100 volumes, it never gets too repetitive, and there's always some new mysteries to be solved. The series has an indefinite lifespan and limitless potential, and throughout the years, it's garnered over 270 million total copies sold. Standing tall in second place is Golgo 13. It's probably not the name that you had in mind when we reached second place, right? Golgo 13 is about a professional assassin for hire, and it's the manga with the highest number of total volumes at 212 as of April 2024. And I just find it funny that the 2 manga with the most volumes printed are rather similar in terms of setting and characters. Cops and assassins, go figure. Well, with that many volumes, Golgo 13 has broken the 300 million mark in copies sold. Even after the author's passing in 2021, Golgo 13 lives on, with a group of manga creators known as Saito Productions having taken over. Notice one more title missing so far? Drum roll please for One Piece. One Piece sitting atop the list of the best-selling manga may be common knowledge at this point. We're looking at a beast of a franchise, one that continues to captivate fans in the present. With over 500 million copies sold, its numbers leave everyone else in the dust. It almost doubles up Golgo 13's numbers, so that's just plain insane. Despite One Piece supposedly having an ending in sight and likely not outliving series like Detective Conan, I doubt anything will come close to its numbers anytime soon. For perspective, even Demon Slayer will have to have another decade of sustained popularity to reach even half of what One Piece has sold, something that's very, very unlikely, considering that it ended and its anime is drawing near its conclusion. That was one long list. Hope you had fun going through that journey with me. How many of your guesses from the start of the video were right? Don't hesitate to tell me, and feel free to tell me what you think of videos like this. Who knows, I might give it another shot in future. If you like this video, you might want to check out the top 20 action samurai anime. Thank you for staying this far, and I'd love to see you next time. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more anime goodness only on ViniiTube.